So when any super successful person is asked for one tip that they would give someone who is seeking a rich life, it always seems to be do what you love. If you love what you do, you will not only be great at it, thus likely successful, but you will also never see work as work, but actually just life itself. I too believe in this romantic notion of life. I don't believe one should live a dual existence, their work life and then their non-work life. Think about it. All told, you spend 3/4 of your waking life, at least 5 days a week, 50 weeks a year, involved with your work. If you don't like what you do, you are living most of your life in pain and misery. This is no way to live. To really live, spend most of your life loving what you do. There's another reason why you really need to love what you do that's less inspiring, but I think even more critical. The best explanation I've ever heard for why you have to absolutely love what you do was from Steve Jobs, a man that I would argue was the greatest entrepreneur in history. During an interview at a D5 conference, Jobs said this, quote, "People say that you have to have a lot of passion for what it is that you're doing, and it's true. And the reason is because it's so hard that if you don't, any rational person would give up. It's really hard, and you have to do it over a sustained period of time. So if you don't love it, if you aren't having fun doing it, and you don't really love it, you're going to give up." Oftentimes, it's the ones who are successful who loved what they did so they could persevere when it got really tough. And the ones that didn't love it quit. Who would put up with this stuff if you don't love it? So if you don't love it, you're going to fail. So, for what you're doing right now in life, do you love it? Does your business make your heart go pitter-patter? Because if you're not crazy in love, you're not going to make it. You're going to give up. And no one would blame you. But I want to give you this huge warning here. Don't over-romanticize this notion. Every business, every job, and every productive project will have its difficulties, taxing responsibilities, and unpleasant aspects. It will be a grind most of the time. Pressing on and overcoming those factors is where much of the feeling of accomplishment comes from. Yet overall, if you are exhilarated and fulfilled by the outcome of your work, then yes, you're still in love. And look, your job doesn't have to be romantic in the eyes of others or society. Maybe you didn't dream of doing what you're doing right now as a kid, being a project manager or a financial controller or a media buyer or an operations director or an executive assistant or whatever. But there's something about it that you love. The function, the challenge, the problem solving, the speed or pace. While others might find it dull, you find it stimulating, interesting, and engaging. It gives you juice, and you look forward to getting up each day and taking it on. That is when you know you're onto something here. Everybody loves something, and somebody loves to do everything. Even the most obscure and seemingly tough, drab, or eclectic thing, someone finds juice doing it. That's what you're looking for in what you do, and those that you might hire to do things for you. Do they get juiced doing it? Will they love it no matter what it is? That's the question that you're solving for. So tell us what you love in the comments below. And hey, maybe you'll find a kindred spirit in the group when you do.
Okay, let's begin. So Mary, you're not going to talk to that lady?
Right now?
She's there right now. Yeah. Okay, so let's begin. So February 8th is where so go down a little bit farther. Oh yeah, let's ask that question. So I was talking to an agent, and they were selling a development property, where someone's going to build some type of commercial building there, or a 3-story, condo building, whatever. And I looked at the contract. I said, "What about the illegal basement suite?" And they said, "Who cares about the basement suite? It's a big developer buying this land to build a condo there." So what is the answer to that question?
Selling it as is, where is.
Yeah, so that doesn't solve the problem, because the real estate council doesn't care whether you sell it as is or where is, because what's a developer who's going to build a 20-story building or a 3-story building going to do with that house after they buy it? Well, they're gonna get a development permit and all those things, get rezoning done, which is gonna take 1 to 2 years, right? So it's gonna take a while to do that. So, so you still need to disclose, like whether you're selling it to a little old lady who's 80 years old, or whether you're selling it to a multi-millionaire company, both set developments, you still have the disclosure rules don't change. Like there's no fine print in the real estate council rules say that if you're selling to a really rich person, you have to disclose certain things, right? Think about that. The disclosure rules are the same with this little old lady or multi-millionaire both set developments. So just because in 6 months they're going to tear the house down doesn't mean that you don't have to disclose there's a legal basement suite, because they're going to rent it out for 6 months or a year or 2 years till they get it rezoned and get the development permit. So then they, the neighbor reports them and they can't rent out the basement suite, and it might have been counted in the basement suite rental. So remember that rule. Okay, so let's look. Advice about tenants. Okay, so
Sorry, so in that situation then you would have a listing agent, right? And there is an agent.
buyer's agent or seller's agent needs to disclose to the buyer that illegal basement suite. Selling the property as is, where it is, just talks about the roof can leak, the foundation can be cracked, whatever. That doesn't deal with your disclosure rules. So here's some issues, times where real estate agents got in trouble at the real estate council. These are just recent ones in the last 6 months. So this first one is about tenants. So what this realtor did, he didn't act with reasonable skill and care, didn't act in the best interest of his clients, when he did not include a clause in the contract with respect to the existing tenant occupancy, didn't advise the seller the requirements to enable the seller to provide vacant possession, and did not provide notice to the existing tenant and the tenancy. So if you know on the contract of purchase and sale, there's a spot for completion date, possession date, and adjustment date, right? So a lot of times when people sell tenanted property, they just write in their, possession date is March 15th. Does everyone follow with me, or do you need Megan to see? Does anyone need Megan to show you what I'm talking about? Harry, do you want to see what I'm talking about?
We're reading it.
Yeah. So you have to make sure that you write below March 15th, tenanted, in that spot. Do you know the spot I'm talking about? Go to the contract of purchase and sale. Because this is what the agent didn't do. This is a very important thing to do. I think it's, so just go down a bit farther. Right here. See, so right here it says, the buyer will vacant possession of the property on March 15th. So the agent wrote in there 12 noon, March 15th. But it says, or subject to the following existing tenancies, if any. So that's where you have to write the word tenanted. Because possession is the day the buyer gets the keys. But if there's a tenant there, you always have to write tenanted in this line, right? Because there's no guarantee at this point if the buyer is going to ask you to evict the tenant or not, right? Because a lot of people think, oh, this property is sold, the tenant's got to move. But no, the only way to get a tenant out of a property, do you remember that there's one licensed property manager in the room, so they'll know the answer to this question regarding how to get a tenant out of a property. There's 3 primary ways you can get a tenant out of a property in BC, and they are. What's that? Eviction for what basis? There's 3 bases for it. Not payment of rent is one way you can evict a tenant. Number 2, a renovation is going to happen. Vacant possession is needed for that renovation to happen, and you've got permits already in place for the renovation to happen. And the third one? Buyer or the buyer's family is going to live in the property. So,
Or they both agree to end tenancy.
Mutual end agreement and tenancy. So a lot of times people don't like the ethnicity of the tenant in the basement, and they say, I don't like a so-and-so person living in my basement suite. That doesn't work to get the tenant out, right? So you have to remember there's only 3 ways. So when you write in there tenanted, you have to write in there tenanted, because then after subject removal, after subject removal, you then, the buyer has to sign a piece of paper saying, I or my family is going to live there, please evict the tenant. Right? That's how you get the tenant out. So it's very important to write in there. And so all that happened in this case is the agent wrote in there March 15th. You know, in that clause there, he just wrote March 15th and didn't deal with the tenant. And so when the buyer bought the place, he's thinking on March 15th the place is going to be vacant. But the only way that place is going to be vacant is if one of those three things happen. Tenant didn't pay rent, renovations with vacant possession needed, or eviction notice from the buyer. And if the buyer didn't give it, you know, like if an investor buys a property, he can't promise he's going to live there, so that means the tenant stays, right? A lot of people call me and say, oh, they've got a tenant's agreement that's $500 a month. We need to change it to $1,000 because that's the real rent. Well, if the tenant doesn't want to change it to $1,000 a month, you're stuck with the existing tenant's agreement, right? Unless the tenant agrees to change the tenant's agreement, as a buyer, you get that existing tenant's agreement. And you can't go to them and say, I'm the new owner, please change tenant's agreement. If they don't want to, they don't have to, right? So you have to remember that. So he got in trouble. What was his penalty for not dealing with the tenant properly? It was only $4,500, so not too bad, right? $3,000 plus $1,500. Okay, so go to the next one. What's the next one? Okay, so what did this guy do? Okay, so he did not act with reasonable care and skill when he sent a photo of his buyer's client deposit check to the seller's agent, but did not indicate that the check was not physically in his possession. So his penalty was, he got $4,500 as well. So do you understand what happened? Likely, I'm guessing that he was doing a multiple offer presentation, and he emailed the contract to the seller's agent, then asked the buyer to email him a photo of the deposit check, sent the photo of the deposit check to the seller's agent, got that offer accepted, then the buyer didn't want to buy it anymore. And so, of course, the seller wanted the deposit check, right? So you have to make sure that if you email a deposit check, that you make sure you have it in your possession, right? Because it cost him $4,500 and maybe one or two courses. I don't know what it all says in the fine print. Anyone have any questions about that? Because you see how he sort of misled the seller's agent by sending the deposit check. But I'm just saying what happened, right? Okay, next one. What is this one? What did this guy do? Okay, he did not apply reasonable care and skill and did not act in the best interest of his clients when he failed to ensure that the seller's son had the authority to sign the contract purchase and sale on behalf of his clients. Well, and he basically quit being a realtor because of that. So you think about that. Someone calls you up and says, my parents are in China. I want to sell the place. My dad said it's okay to sell it. So they just sign the contract. And of course, when the parents come back from China, they're not happy that their house is sold. Right? Or for sale, there's a sign outside. So you can't, so the first question is, can the son sign the contract on his parents' behalf?
Yes.
He could, but certain things need to happen before you do that. So the most common thing to do is power of attorney, right? Power of attorney, you can go to a lawyer, notary, parents go, kid goes, sign all these papers, gets power of attorney, he can sell the place, right? So as a realtor, you should get the power of attorney. That proves that the son can sign for the parents. The real estate council also accepts a signed piece of paper authorizing the son to sign the listing contract. If you look in the fine print of the license practice manual, they say that if you get written authority, someone else can sign for it. And also the real estate council says that you can sign for your client, but I think it's always silly to take that responsibility because you think about how many people live in the Vancouver area. Why would you want to take the responsibility of signing documents on behalf of your client? It's much better for them to get their brother, their sister, their neighbor to sign rather than you sign. I think it's a big risk. But anyway, so that's good. So make sure that you have that permission. And, you know, we had a case several years ago where it was the exact opposite. The kid owned the property, who was in China, parents lived here. So they called the realtor and said, you know, we own this property, but my daughter's on title. Let's put it up for sale. Of course, when daughter came back, got in a fight, and then she wouldn't sign the papers at the lawyer's office because, you know, whatever the situation was. And so it technically wasn't a valid contract because the parents signed it, but the real owner didn't sign it, which is the daughter. So just be careful of that. Okay, next one. Okay, so here's one. We'll go down a little bit farther. I think there's a thing here, an email. No email? Okay, so these are the questions. Okay, so I know what this is about. So, first question is that you're the seller's agent, and a buyer calls you up and says, I'd like you to write an offer for me on this property. I don't have an agent, so can you write the offer for me? So my first question is, do you need to write the offer? Do you have a legal responsibility to write the offer for the buyer? No. You can say no. Like this agent didn't want to write the offer for the buyer, and thought he was going to get in trouble. The answer is no. You can tell the agent, you can tell the buyer, go find your own agent. I'm not going to write the offer for you. Right? There's no obligation that you have to give no agency to somebody. They can go and find their own person. So remember that. Next thing is, if someone does not have an agent, if you agree to meet them and write the contract up, do you need to do a commission disclosure to somebody who does not have an agent? They have no representation from you. No, the answer is no. No commission disclosure to someone who is not your client. Right? So, if you have a listing, someone walks in the open house and says, I want to buy it. You say, okay, well, I don't know you. I'm going to do no agency to you. You write the contract. There's no commission disclosure needed because they're not your client. You only disclose money to someone who's your client. Same thing as if you had a buyer, you had a buyer agency contract with them, and you knocked on a door and the seller says, I want to sell, and you sell that house to your buyer. The buyer is your client, the seller's not. So if the buyer is paying you money, you don't need to tell the seller how much you're getting because the client is your buyer. The seller does not need to know how much money you're getting. Okay?
From March 15, where we cannot be the door agent, still we can have a customer relationship with the buyer?
The rules got changed to June 15th. They got delayed. And they're going to be changed some more, so we don't want to talk about it because they'll be changed. Do you need to present it? Okay, so you are the buyer's agent, and you write up an offer, get everything signed, you send it to the seller's agent, and he says to you, that's way too low, I'm not going to present it to the seller. So can the seller's agent do that? No. So the rule is, every offer that you get as a seller's agent, you have to present. So what happens if you write up the offer, you send it to the seller's agent, he calls you back and says, I'm not going to present it because we removed subject last night, it sold for $822. Can you do that? The answer is no. Because as a seller's agent, you have to present all offers to the seller before completion. Right? So subjects were removed yesterday. As a seller's agent, if you get an offer today, you still have to present it to the seller. Right? Think about that. Any offers received before completion, you have to give to the seller. Because if you sold it yesterday for $822 and the offer today is for $850, the seller might go to the lawyer and find out if he can cancel the $822 offer. There's an initial missing on page 3. You know, who knows what the issue is. But that's your rule, is any offers before completion, present to the seller. So just remember that.
But the seller's agent has the responsibility to advise the buyer's agent that there was an accepted offer? Is there any responsibility?
Well, that's just a courtesy rule. I don't know of any rule regarding that, but it would be unusual not to say that. You know, or you write an offer with a completion in December. You send the offer in, your buyer says, I want to complete December 15th. You send it to the seller's agent, he says, I don't want to present the offer because the seller's not going to agree to December 15th. Again, the seller's agent can't decide that December 15th is too long for the seller. The seller's agent has to present, no matter what the price or date is. Right? Remember that.
And if you do that, what's your job then as a listing agent? To cancel, inform the first offer, the accepted offer, buyer's agent, that we have a better offer, we are going to downprice?
I'm not sure you're talking about.
About if we get another offer after accepted offer, before completion, you said if there is another better offer?
Well, it's a complicated thing where the lawyers have to be involved, and the seller would have to go and talk to a lawyer and figure out if he can get out of the $822 offer and sell it to somebody else for $850. That'd be a complicated legal thing. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the primary goal is present offers that you get to the seller before completion. That's the rule. Okay, next one.
This is the next one.
Oh, it's the next one. Oh, how to get money out of a trust account. Okay, so you have a deal. Doesn't matter if you're the buyer's agent or the seller's agent. Subjects are removed. So, and you've got the $50,000 in deposit and trust, and then either the buyer or the seller calls you and says, don't want to buy anymore, don't want to sell anymore. The question is, how do you get the money out of trust?
Both sides sign. Release.
So there's a special form called a release form. The buyer and seller sign it, and the money comes out. So if you go to the release form, so the question is, do you get paid as an agent if that happens? So what the fine print on the listing contract says is that if a buyer buys the property, removes subjects, but it doesn't complete, you still get paid. That's what the fine print says. So the only way to do that, there's two ways for that to happen. Either you go to court and sue the seller as a seller's agent, like the buyer's agent can't sue the seller, only the seller's agent can sue the seller. So either that happens, or on this form that Megan has, if you go down here farther, you can see that it says here, the deposit of $50,000 is released to buyer, seller, or other. So you can put down buyer, $10,000, seller, $30,000, Remax, $10,000. So if you want money, just put a little check there, Remax, and you put the amount you want. And if buyer and seller agree with that amount, then that's what you get. Right? So there's two ways to get paid if seller and buyer want to cancel after subjects are moved. Either get them to write on this form, or as a seller's agent has to go to court and sue people. Does that make sense? So let's look at the questioning and see if I forgot something. So what happens if the buyer and seller don't agree? So, you know, often what happens is the buyer doesn't want to buy anymore and the seller says, well, I sold it to you, you have to buy it, right? So the question is, what happens if the buyer and seller can't agree on that form? Like the seller says, I'll cancel, but I want 30, you get 20. And the buyer says, no, I want 15 or whatever. The answer is, just go to court. And that's what happens if the buyer and seller can't agree. So as an agent, it's a lot simpler for you because you'll be involved in court proceedings. So it's a lot better for you to try and get them to sign that form than to go to court and do all kinds of statements, and just a small nightmare for you to do that, right? So try and get the buyer and seller to agree on a number, and then your life is much simpler. What's the date on this one? So this might be too new. I think this is too new. Okay, we'll talk about that next time. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about prospecting today. And while I'm thinking about it, make sure you plan to come next week because Kim Spencer is going to be here. He's the guy from the real estate board, and he's going to talk about multiple offer rules. So if you're ever thinking about being involved in multiple offers sometime next week, it's a good time to be here to learn, right? So so the question is prospecting. Like, if you didn't make as much money in 2017 as you'd like to, almost for sure the reason is you didn't do enough prospecting. Think about that. If you didn't make as much money in 2017 as you wanted to, it's likely because you didn't do enough prospecting. Because if you prospect a lot, you'll make a lot. You know, the agents who make over 500 in our office do a lot of prospecting. Agents who make under 100 do very little. That's a very easy correlation I can see. So the question is, what is prospecting? In my mind, prospecting is actively looking for people who want to buy or sell real estate. Because I use the word actively because of this. If I went bowling tonight, there's a chance that the person bowling with me might buy or sell real estate, right? But I'm not sort of actively, unless I'm talking to him, Bill, do you want to buy or sell real estate? But if I'm just bowling the game with him and this type of thing, I'm sort of making connections, but that's not actively prospecting. To actively prospect, I'd have to sit down beside Bill and say, Bill, are you interested in buying? Are you interested in selling? Then that's actively prospecting, but bowling is not. So keep that in mind as we have this conversation today about actively means taking a step forward and trying to see what people have to say. So my next question is, so that's what is it? Next question is how to do it. And so there's basically direct and indirect ways of prospecting. So I think Now, this is my personality style because I'm more direct than indirect, but some of you I know are more indirect. So you probably will do better at indirect prospecting, and myself and the other people in the room who are more direct people will do better at direct prospecting. So so that the direct prospecting is, texting them, emailing them, calling them and saying, have you thought about buying or selling real estate? Do you know of a friend or somebody who's thinking of doing that? That's a direct prospecting method of contacting people. The indirect is what I was talking about by joining a bowling club and meeting people in bowling that way. One thing I just wrote down, this is something I thought about, is some people offer, like they send out a little flyer that says, if you send me a client, give you $500, give you $1,000 type of thing. So this is my answer to that question, because a lot of people who are new at prospecting do that. They make a little flyer, send it to all the houses, send me a client, I'll give you $1,000. So I ask this question to agents who do that. I say, let's pretend you need new windows for your house, right? And you get a flyer, and your friend needs new windows for their house, and you know that they need new windows for the house, and you get a flyer in the mail that says, send us the customer, we'll give you $500, we'll give you $1,000. So my question is, would you feel comfortable recommending your friend buy windows from a company that you got a flyer in the mail from? So me and Harry say no, because I won't recommend my friend buy windows from this company because I don't know anything about that company, right? If I recommend that Bella buy these windows and it's a bad company, I'm going to feel really bad.
And also your friend also possibly received the same flyer.
Maybe, exactly. So in my mind, that doesn't work. It only works if it's a friend. Like I can tell Bella, who's my friend, I can say, Bella, if you find me a customer, I'll give you $1,000. But to send out to everybody on the street $1,000 if you send me a customer, typically does not work, because people only send business to you if they know and trust you. So think about that, because I see that a lot of times people who are new to prospecting make these offers on their flyers, and people don't respond to them because they don't know and trust you at this point. So now a question comes about when to prospect. It's interesting, an agent in our office was prospecting on holiday Monday at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon with door knocking. And I was in the office here working away and came back to the office and said no one was home. And so my answer was, of course, because at 3 o'clock on a holiday, that's when everyone has woken up, eaten, and is at the store, right? Been a lot better for that agent to have knocked at about 11 o'clock, because everyone would have been awake at 11 o'clock but not left for the store yet, or at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, because they went to the store, went to the friend's house, came back. So you have to plan your door knocking strategically to think about when people are home. So now here's another thing to consider. During the whole week, like let's pretend the week starts Sunday 6 a.m. and ends Saturday midnight, okay? So when do you as an agent make the most money? Like, do you make the most money Tuesday at 3 o'clock, Thursday at 6 o'clock, Saturday at 9 a.m.? Like, what time during the week do you make the most money as a realtor? Carson thinks it's Saturday, Sunday. Is that true? That's true. And I think that you make more money on Saturday than you do on Sunday. Right? I think the most valuable time of the entire week that you have as a realtor is Saturday from 12 to 4, and ideally from 1 to 4. So you think about it, if you're going to plan anything for the for all of 2018, you're doing something between 12 and 4 on Saturday besides working, in my mind you're making a mistake, because that's the time, the most likely time that you're going to do real estate business. Saturday afternoon. So for example, if I'm going to door knock, what you do is I can't talk to a retired person Saturday at 1:30 because I could talk to them Monday at 10:30, right? I make very little money at Monday at 10:30, but all the retired people who are, if I'm going to door knock this street, all the retired people are home Monday at 10:30. I can door knock them, talk to them Monday at 10:30. Saturday at 1 o'clock, I go back and talk to people who are working, right? So, and also, I don't speak a language other than English, so I'm door knocking and I find someone who doesn't speak English. So they're not my client. So I've crossed them all off. The only people left for Saturday are the people who weren't home. I've eliminated all the vacant houses, all the people who don't speak English, and all the people whose friend is a realtor and are retired, right? And I've left with prime people to talk to at that time. Same thing if you telephone people. You can't telephone a street for the very first time Saturday afternoon because you're wasting your time talking to retired people, people who don't speak English, and calling discontinued numbers. You want to reserve your most valuable time for talking to your key people. So if I've got, another example is if I've got a buyer who I've been showing the property for the past couple of weeks, I can't show them property between 12 and 4 because I'm missing out on valuable time. Because if I book showings for that buyer at 1 o'clock on Saturday, the new customers, like when are new customers going to contact you? They're not contacting you 9 o'clock Saturday morning. They're contacting you Saturday afternoon. I get lots of phone calls Saturday afternoon from your leads, from your advertising emails. That's a key time to have available for people to contact you. So if I've got a buyer, I'm trying to show them property sometime besides Saturday 12 to 4. So I'm showing it Saturday morning, Thursday at 3 o'clock, Tuesday at 6 o'clock, right? Those are the times I want to be working with those buyers, not Saturday 12 to 4. Because that's for new customers to contact you or for you to be chasing new business, right? Because it's very hard for you to get new business Tuesday at 10:30, right? Very hard for you to get new business. The only people you're going to get Tuesday at 10:30 is retired people, someone who's not working, right? Or you're getting a housewife with kids at home, and so then she's not going to sign the listing contract. You're going to have to come back in the evening when husband and wife are there, sign the listing contract or the buyer contract, whatever. So think about that. Try and work with established clients outside of Saturday 12 to 4. When would be the second most valuable time of your entire week? In my mind, Sunday afternoon, right? So again, that's your second choice. And so you can figure out for your business how you do things. But in my real estate business, Saturday afternoon and then Sunday is my second most valuable time. And then from there, you go from there. The next one for me is Monday nights and Tuesday nights because that's when you do multiple offers. Right? So you can figure out what works for you, but you don't want to be doing new prospecting during the time that that you could be doing other things, right? So what else do I have down here? So you have to think about when you're going to do prospecting because you want to make your time valuable. Okay. So now the question comes in is, what is the purpose of prospecting? We're going to be talking about the different types of prospecting in a minute. So you can be thinking about what type of, if you want to prospect, what are you going to do? And Megan's going to write them down. But right now I want to think about what is the purpose behind prospecting. So if I'm bowling tomorrow night and I say to the guy beside me, are you thinking about buying a house? And he says yes to me. Or I'm knocking on the doors across the street here. I knock on one door and I say to the lady who answers the phone, she goes, yeah, me and my husband are thinking about selling because we want to move to a bigger house. Right? Or you call somebody on the phone, a past customer of yours, and say, Bill, thought about selling? Yeah, it's a new year, I'm thinking about selling. Chinese New Year, it's the year of the dog, I'm going to do it. So, the question is, you found somebody who says yes to your question. What is your goal, your purpose at that point? In my mind, there's only one goal you have, and that is to sit at a table across from the person and have them sign a contract. Think about that. The only way you're going to make money from the guy bowling or the lady that you knock on the door is to sit at the table with them and have them sign a contract with you, whether it's a contract to buy or a contract to sell. And so that is your focus. And so, every 2 weeks probably, I get a call from an agent who has been working with a buyer. Got a call yesterday, again, same thing, worked with a buyer, and they bought without them, right? And of course, they don't have a buyer agency contract. So someone wants to buy. Bill, who's bowling with you, said they want to buy. Okay, let's meet tomorrow night. I'll come to your house, we'll meet at a coffee shop, find out what they want to buy, Get them to sign the buyer agency contract. Bill, I need you to promise to buy only with me, not with anybody else. Will you make that promise? Yes, I will. Okay, please sign here. This is your promise. Promise in here to sign. Right? And if someone wants to sell, we need to advertise it. And so, do it. And you sign the contract. It's interesting. An agent, I'll just tell you a little side thing. An agent emailed me a couple days ago, I think on Monday or Tuesday, and they said to me, I got a listing. I texted back, congratulations. And it's an exclusive listing. And I texted back and I said, why do they want to sell it so low? And she goes, what do you mean? I go, well, why, if they're putting on an exclusive listing, that means they don't want to sell it at the highest price possible. Right? Think about that. If you want to sell it for the highest price possible, what would you do? Put it on MLS. If you want to sell it for a low price, you only tell Pedro. If Pedro knows this house is for sale, it's going to sell for a low price. If every realtor in the Vancouver area knows, and every public person on the MLS in the world knows, it's going to sell for a much higher price. Right? So, Bill says, yeah, I want to sell my house. So you say, to get your highest price, we need you to sign a contract, put it on MLS. Right? So, that's what your goal is. When you knock on the door, telephone, guy who's bowling with you, the goal is sit at a table, got to sign a contract. Right? And the same thing with the buyer. Buyer says, oh, I'm just going to look by myself. Well, the question is, if you go to Pedro and he says, if you're a buyer and you go to Pedro as an agent, is Pedro helping you or is he helping the seller? I don't know. Well, let me tell you something. If Pedro's got a house for sale, his job is to get the highest price for the seller. If you want to work with somebody who's going to get you a really good price, a low price, and help you protect your interests, I need to help you. Otherwise, the seller's agent's going to help the seller and you're going to pay a high price for the property. Oh, okay. I'll sign there. So, that type of thing is your goal, because if your goal, like what some agents do, is when they get the phone call or they get the door knock, they start emailing the customer information and sending them stuff and this type of thing, but that doesn't make you any money. But you can send 1,000 emails, but you're not going to make any money, right? The way to make money is to get a contract signed. You have to correlate the two. Paychecks come because a contract signed. It's no relation to how many houses you've sold or how many emails you've sent. It's only contract signed. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about prospecting. So, you know, we've got 185 agents. There's one agent who spends, he told me his number. It was between $15,000 and $20,000 a month on advertising. Right? He spends a lot. It's a crazy amount. He's on the radio. He's all kinds of things, right? He does that, right? So, and there's other people in our office who spend zero on advertising. So you've got that thing. You've got $15,000 a month to zero. So we're going to talk about people who spend zero on prospecting and people who spend $15,000 a month on prospecting, what they do, right? So Megan, I want you to write a list of prospecting that will cost you no money and prospecting that costs money. Because some of you might want to spend $15,000 a month, some of you want to spend zero. So if you want to prospect, you have to think, what am I going to do? And the reason I'm writing this list is that I want each of you in this room to look at this list and say, I'm going to try one new method of prospecting in the next month. Right? When you see this list, you say, okay, I think I can try that one. So there's lists that cost money and no money. So tell me some prospecting things that you could do that fit one of those two categories. What's something?
Flyer.
What's that?
Flyer.
Send out a flyer. So that would be cost money. So a flyer. What else? Calling. That's free. What's another one? Emails. That's free. Another one. Door knocking. That's free as well. There's quite a few agents who are making quite good money in door knocking recently. It's another one. A way for you to prospect to find new customers to buy and sell real estate. Newspaper ads. What's that one?
Billboard.
Billboards. Yeah. And that's I wasn't talking about him. So I don't know what his cost is, but he's a lot of
Lots of
billboards.
money, so.
Yeah, exactly. He might be more than 15. Billboards. Okay, what else?
File service?
What else?
Social media?
Social media. Yeah, you can do a lot of. You know, there's an agent. I'll talk about social media. Maybe I'll just talk about these as they happen. So there's quite a few agents. So let's just stop for a second. I'll just talk a few of these. So calling. You technically are supposed to use the do not call list, right? So telelisting. Denise has got telelisting. She makes a small fortune. Actually, not a small fortune, but she makes a fortune calling people. And she's going to share her telelisting password with us so you can use telelisting. We just haven't got that out. But just so you know, you're supposed to follow the do not call list. Someone, did I talk to you guys about do not call list 1 or 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, so that's it. So calling is an easy thing. Emails. You can buy email addresses, you know. So just so you know that. Because every time that you enter those contests, like I was at the boat show the other day, and there's all these little contests you can enter to win. See, when you enter to win, you know, free, whatever, they take all those and sell them. That's how they make their money. They sell your name, address, phone number to marketing companies, and that's how you get the junk emails, right? So you can buy those email addresses. Door knocking. There's quite a few agents in our office who've done very well door knocking, and got quite a few listings recently. I always encourage people to go with somebody different than themselves. You know, like, you think about it. If you're going to buy a car, some people in our room, like, I'm just going to pick Honda. Some people in our room think that Hondas are good cars. Some people think Hondas are bad cars. Some people in this room think Toyota's a good car. Some people think Toyota's bad, right? So same thing when people go to sell real estate. Some people think that women are good realtors. Some people think women are bad realtors. Some people think men are good realtors. Some people think men are bad realtors, right? So I think it's an advantage. Some people think a certain ethnicity is a better realtor than another ethnicity, right? So I always encourage people, if you're door knocking, to go with somebody. If you're a man, go with a woman. If you're a woman, go with a man. And if you're one nationality, try and pick somebody with a different nationality. Because then there's a better chance that when you knock on the door, they'll like either Bella or Harry. Right? You see that? Because when Harry knocks on the door, not everyone's going to like him because they're going to say, he's a man. I want a man. Or I need a young woman to sell the place type thing, or whatever, you know. So it's totally whatever the perspective is people have. So if you've got someone different, very important, and the language thing as well. So and also if you want to try it, there's several agents in our office doing it who do quite well. Social media, you know, there's an agent in Gibson's who has a blog, and she's done quite well on her blog. She's sold, I don't know the number, but she sold 3 or 4 just from her blog, you know. And in the last 6 months, 8 months, she's done 3 or 4 sales from just having a blog and doing live chat. Like, you know, the Ask Remax thing, right? You can have that on your website. Costs a little bit of money, but you have it on the website. So she's gotten 1 sale just from having Ask Remax on her website. You know, there's just an example. So that's using social media. You know, you can check out Rachel Dempster and see what she's all doing there, but she does quite well with that. Flyers. You know, Terry Ng in our office, he does very well. So, you know, it's how does he survive in his business? He sends out flyers. How does Doris and Phil in Burnaby do it? They send out flyers. How does Paul Edison do it? How does Lauren Gomblin do it? They send out flyers, right? So, and so if you're sending out flyers, the mistake people make is they try and compete with Doris and Phil. Or they farm Burnaby, so you can't compete with Doris and Phil. But you start off with a small little area, 200 people, and start farming 200 people every 3 weeks. You send out a flyer, and eventually you can grow it. Right? So that's the situation with flyers. Newspaper ads. So what most people think newspaper ads is, and probably a lot of you thought newspaper ads is put an ad in the place, you know, 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, 1.2 million type thing. But you can also put an ad in the paper, buyer looking for a 2-bedroom condo with a view of Falls Creek. Right? Because if you get a flyer in the mail saying Bill's got a buyer looking for a 2-bedroom condo with a view of Falls Creek, you might call him. Right? So that's looking for sellers by advertising what buyers want. And I've done that and it's worked well. And you can do that through different types of medias as well to do it. Craig Proctor, who is a very successful agent in the Toronto area, he does that type of advertising where he advertises what buyers want as a means of getting sellers. Works very well. What else is there? Newspaper ads, billboards. So, yeah, billboards work as well. They cost a little bit more money than some of these other ones. Okay, what else is? What other types of prospecting is there? Google Word ads, right? So, I was talking to somebody just in the last little while. They were talking about. They weren't a realtor. They were doing something else, but they were talking about how much web presence they were getting on their website when they did Google AdWords compared to they canceled it, and they just saw like the market activity just went, just totally changed. So Google AdWords work. So you know, if you want to spend some money, Google AdWords are there. What else? Websites. Do you know that there's agents in our office who have spent in excess of $75,000 on their website? And there's agents in our office who have no website, right? So there's a big difference between 0 and 75,000, right? So websites can make you a lot of money, right? I can give you examples of many agents in the Vancouver area who spend $5,000 a month minimum on their website. You know, minimum $5,000. Probably it's up in, can't remember how much Les Torque spends per month, but someone told me a while ago. But yeah, so there's lots of agents who spend big bucks on their website. So if you want to do well, you can hire web people and they can do it. You know, my brother's a good example. In 2004, when he became a realtor, he spent $10,000 on his website. So that's 14 years ago. So how much is 10,000 14 years ago? That's like 50,000 today. Right? That's a lot of money. And he did very well from his website. Very well. What else is there? So your sphere of influence. So how can you prospect through your sphere of influence? So one way is to join a club. Okay? So clubs are things like bowling, curling, badminton, you know, yoga, this type of thing. And so you interact with the people who go to badminton or go to yoga, this type of thing. So joining a club can work really well. A church, you know, that type of thing. So joining those types of organizations, you meet people, and that's how word of mouth happens. Right? Because you think about it, some people, like, if I'm playing badminton with Bella every Thursday afternoon, the chance of me listing with Carson is much smaller. Even though Carson is the greatest agent in South Burnaby where I live, I likely will list with Bella. Right? If you think about that. Because I'm playing badminton with Bella all the time. A few people, even though I play badminton with Bella, will list with Carson because he's the greatest, but most people will list with Bella. And that's why that makes this sphere of influence so powerful. Because Carson's spending thousands of dollars to become the greatest agent in South Burnaby. All Bella's doing is playing badminton with me. Right? So that's the difference between the sphere of influence. It's very powerful.
Anybody doing TV or radio?
TV, radio, that's like billboards, yeah. So you put that there, TV, radio.
Anybody here doing?
Yeah, the guy that's spending 15, he does radio. Yeah. No different office. TV and radio. So, Business Network International. Does anyone here know what that is?
Yeah.
So that's a way that has made money for a lot of people, and that basically involves going to a meeting once a week with people, and you spend a little bit of money, and you meet people all the time, and you get a close network of like 15 people that are committed to sharing referral business with you. So in that group is a realtor, a lawyer, a plumber, an accountant, and this type of thing. And so the goal is that when the plumber and the accountant have customers who want to buy or sell real estate, they call you, and you've got someone who wants to get their books, taxes done, or get their plumbing fixed, you refer that way. So Business Network International has worked well for several people. The interesting thing is, it's just to tell you how successful it is, it's very, very difficult for a realtor to get in those groups because they find it so successful. Yes, every group has a realtor. So they're very powerful. So check that out, Business Network International. Any other ones that come to your mind?
Going to meet up groups.
Meetup? Yeah, so that's sort of that one. Meetup groups. That's another powerful one. That's like badminton, sort of. Meetup groups. Like if you go meet up for hiking, you basically, there's meetup groups and you can say, I want a photography, I want to go hiking. So then everyone who's going to go hiking in Squamish, you join that group and you go on Saturday hiking. Meetup groups. You know a powerful one that sort of costs money but really doesn't cost money is there's two. Well, one that costs money, which I think is very powerful, is going out for lunch with people. Because everyone likes to go out for lunch. You know, you have a choice of eating a sandwich right from home, or going out and eating. And so all of you know your clients' birthdays, right? Because you did the FinTrack on them, right? And so you know that they're born on March 15th. And so you should be texting them 1 or 2 or 3 days before March 15th and saying, Mary, it's your birthday the 15th, let's go out for lunch. People love that. People love to go for lunch. And when you're going out for lunch when I go out for lunch with Bella, the chance that she's going to list with Carson, who is the greatest agent in South Burnaby where she lives, is very small because I've gained a lot of loyalty by taking her out for lunch. Because see, Bella bought her house 2 years ago with me, right? And I haven't seen her much, but I take her out for lunch on March 15th on her birthday. The chance that she's going to list with Carson, because Carson's sending her flyers, she's seen Carson's sold sign across from her house across is Carson's sign. She's still going to be loyal to me. And it costs you, how much does lunch cost? Lunch costs you $30. But think how much money Carson's spending on flyers and all these things that he's doing, right? But you just taking your client out for lunch, it's very powerful. Very powerful. So I encourage you to do that. And same thing, you can expand just to your friends. And it's your friend's birthday. Bill, let's go out for lunch. And then when you're sitting with Bill, what Brian Buffini wants you to do is say, Bill, I'm putting my real estate hat on right now. Just want to know are you thinking about buying or selling real estate, or do you know something who is? No, I don't. Okay, I'm going to take my real estate hat off, and then you go back to talking about whatever's happening. But during that lunch thing, you get a lot of credibility. Now, one mistake that agents make is this. So all of us here have sort of a sphere of influence of people. Sort of like 10 people to 30 people who are sort of around us. And that's where you get quite a bit of business from. So sometimes agents say to their close-knit friends, oh, real estate's terrible, or it's just buyers do these terrible things, and they do all these they complain about their customers, and they complain about the real estate industry. So if I'm doing that somewhat to Bella, what's the chance that Bella's going to want to do business with me or send me business? 0, right? So you have to think about that. Even though you might be really frustrated that your customer wasted all your time or bought with somebody else or did whatever, you have to be careful what persona you portray to your close inner circle, because that's where a lot of your business is going to come from. So if you're telling them terrible things about your clients and about the business, you're not going to get business from them, right? So that's an important thing to consider. But yeah, those people are prime people to take out for lunch. If they haven't done business with you, they might, because everyone knows people who are thinking about buying and selling, and they think about you because you had lunch with them. So that's a very powerful one, lunch. So I dealt with lunch. And there's one more that comes to my mind. Anyone else have another one before I say the next one? Inviting people to your house. So some of you that works for, some of you it doesn't work for. But if you can invite people to your house, that's even stronger loyalty than going out for lunch. Because even though I take Bella out for lunch, there's still a chance she might list with Carson. But if she comes to my house and eats with me, along with several other customers, like you could just have Bella over, or you could have like 5 or 6 of your customers over at the same time. That's what agents who have house parties do. They have more than one. Because then, see, Bella meets Harry, and they become friends, and they talk about whatever, Hawaii or whatever they did. It's much better to have several agents, several customers there. The chance that Bella's going to list with Carson after she's eaten at my house is very, very small. So that's a very powerful thing to do, have people to your house. And it doesn't cost much. There's a few agents who do it who don't cook. So how can you have customers to your house if you don't cook? get it catered, right? And there's other agents who are great cooks, and they have people there, and they cook all this food and do all kinds of things, right? So remember, I want you to now look at this list that Megan's typed up there and say, what on there could I do? You know, Google AdWords, for example, if you've got a good website, you could spend $10 a month, you could spend $1,000 a month on get Google AdWords. It's very simple. You know, door knocking, social media, meetup groups. You know, you could decide to go hiking. You get meetup group, and you get people that don't know a realtor and want to buy and sell real estate. It's very simple.
Question.
Yeah.
So when do you start seeing the results if you start using flyers?
There's no answer to that question. That's why I feel that it needs to be every 3 weeks, and it needs to be a small group so people don't run out of money. Because a lot of people start farming, and then they don't see results and they quit. So there's no answer to that question because it depends on certain things. Like if you started farming in South Burnaby and Carson's the greatest agent in South Burnaby, it's hard to get Bella to switch from Carson to you. Because for the past 3 years, she's gotten 1,000 flyers from Carson, and all of a sudden this new person comes up, and so why would her loyalty switch from Carson to you, right? So, but if you pick an area where there's no great agent, it's a lot easier to get Bella to think you're a great agent than if she already thinks Carson is. So, and also a lot of agents don't send the flyer frequently enough. You know, like if you said, I for sure want to do South Burnaby, and you know Carson's there already, you probably have to do every 2 weeks. You know, just to get the flyer out there so they start recognizing you type thing. And it likely has to be tied in with other things, like, you know, if you're serious about farming, you start small, then you have to have a bus bench and a few things like that, right? And you have to do open houses in areas people get to see you. You know, that type of thing. We missed that one, open houses. Right? You know, it's interesting. There's a couple agents in our office who get customers all the time from open houses. And it's just because they're good at connecting with people. And so then they meet someone at an open house and that person becomes a buyer or seller or whatever. So that's an option. And so one of the mistakes agents make, like if you're wanting to make money off open houses, don't do a 2 or 3 hour open house. Do a 1 hour, 1.5 hour maximum open house. Because if you're doing these houses, people come, if it's from 12 to 1, people come from 12 to 1. Then your next open house is from 1:30 to 2:30. Your next open house is from 3 to 4. You do 3 open houses. If you're really good at working with people at open houses, and you'll get people who walk in there who either want to sell or buy. No problem. You do it well.
Is that a cost or no cost?
Pardon me? That's no cost for open houses. And if you're doing them for another agent, make sure they're on MLS. Advertise. There's a spot for MLS to be advertised. Because if you're doing an open house and the agent hasn't put it on MLS that it's an open house, there's a way to check through realtorlink.org. Waste of time because no one knows. Because many buyers go there and find out. If it doesn't show up on Real Estate Weekly as an open house, you're wasting your time. Do it from their agent. So we just got a few minutes left. So I want to say this. The chance of you succeeding as a successful real estate agent are very small if you don't prospect. Right? Because many times agents come here, like I talked to an agent last night. She's been, last year in 2017, she sold 4 properties. Why did she sell 4 properties? 0 prospecting, no website. Right? And that's what everyone can do. Everyone can sell around 4 or 5 properties a year from your close circle of friends. Right? And this year she knows that she told me she's going to have 1 now and 2 in the fall. So she's going to have 3 guaranteed this year again. That's from her close circle. So if you want to go beyond that little circle, you have to prospect, find people. So just have to realize that. Now the importance of goals. It's interesting, when I meet agents, I ask them this question. What's your goal for 2018? So some people say, make more money. But that's not a goal. Why is that? Why is that making more money not a goal? The answer is because it's not measurable. A goal has to be measurable. Like if the person said to me, I want to sell 2 more houses in 2018 than I did in 2017, That's a goal. Or I want to sell one house a month in 2018. That's a goal because you can measure it. You can look back and say, okay, in January, did I sell one house? Which my goal was? Yes or no? But if you say, I just want to make more money, there's no measurable goal to that. So you make sure that your goal is measurable. And the reason why goals are important is because it gives you something to aim towards. So if my goal is one house a month, then when I'm thinking about it, I'm going, this is what I got to do to get one house a month. You know, when in my early career, when I didn't have any customers, my goal was simply this for prospecting. I wanted to sit at a table with 2 people a day. That was my goal. 2 people a day sitting at a table. Because I was not very good at getting people to sign. So I knew, I can't remember right now what my stats were, but I knew that it was 1 in 6, I think it was, that signed agreement with me. So I met with 6 people, and one of those 6 people would sign either a listing contract or buyer thing with me. But not everyone who signs is going to sell or buy. In other words, a listing contract is not a guarantee you're going to get it sold, or buyer contract is not a guarantee you're going to get it buy. So you can figure out how many people you need to meet with to get your business, right? So that was my goal, 2 people a day. And that's what I worked hard at. So sometimes I was still working at 7 o'clock at night because I didn't have my second thing. And I would just be calling people, you know, because I'd had these people on the list. And if I got them home, I'd say, oh, Bill, I'm glad I got you home. I'm just driving by your area. Can I stop by in 15 minutes? They go, sure. So then at 7 o'clock at night, at 7:15, I'm in my second appointment. I'm home by 8:30. You see? So if you are strongly motivated, you can succeed, but you have to have a goal. My goal was 2 people a day, face to face, because I knew that the only way to make money is to meet them in person. Talking on the phone, not going to make any money. And I wrote down, it's funny, I wrote down, who should prospect? The answer is anyone who wants to make money. Did anyone think of any more prospecting things to add to the list before we're done? 10:59.
Making videos?
You know, videos is a very powerful thing. Michael Thorne, who works in Walnut Grove, has made a fortune, not a small fortune, he's made a fortune using videos. And if you want to learn a little bit about videos, he's doing a big video thing in Vegas. And you can go to his website and learn. But yeah, videos are very powerful because people like videos. And you can do a lot of video marketing. Just look to see what Michael Thorne did. All of his stuff is basically free. I guess he had to buy the equipment. But he's done very well with dominating the Walnut Grove market through videos, using videos. And yeah.
What's the last name again?
Thorne. Thorne. Michael is his first name. Yeah, he does videos, teaches agents all the time on video seminars. And he's doing it, I think he does it on Monday in Vegas. That's a good one. Thank you for saying that. Okay. So, you know, prospecting sometimes is scary. You know, some of you say, oh, I want to do meetup groups. So say, oh, it's everyone there I'm not going to know. So all you do is you call up Bella and say, Bella, let's go hiking, let's join a meetup group. And so then Bella's with you on your meetup group. Or the same thing with door knocking. You say, I'm too scared of door knocking. Whether you're a man or woman, you just call up Bella and say, Bella, let's go door knocking. You take someone with you. And then you learn how to do it. And what my suggestion would be is if you want to do one of those things, talk to me or somebody else and say, who in this office door knocks? Right? Because like I wouldn't be a person to take door knocking because I've actually never knocked on a door in my life that I know of. I never have, right? But there's agents or office who do very, very well, make over 100 a year, just strictly knocking on doors, right? So it would be no good to take me door knocking because I'm not going to do it, right? But people who are doing very well at it, great, you know. Gitika in Surrey, she's doing extremely well by door knocking and open houses because that's her personality, right? So my final thing is, my primary goals for you would be to pick a new prospecting thing from this list. And the second thing is, if you're unsure about doing it, take someone with you who is good at it so you can learn from them as they do it. Right? That's my suggestions to you. Any questions before we're done? Okay?
So in door knocking, when you get a lead, how soon do you follow up?
Well, you see, like if you're door knocking, the goal is I just relate to when I called, because I telephone people, I did door knock. So my goal was always to get inside right away. So like, if you door knock and the wife is home, like, so the wife is the one who has to encourage the husband to let you come back. Think about that prospect. You knock on the door, the wife's got to say to her husband when she comes home, Bill, our realtor knocked on our door today and wants to give us an evaluation. Should we have them come back? Right? And he's either going to say yes or no. So, how is she going to make that decision? Because likely sometime in the past 6 months someone else has knocked on the door, or she's got a flyer from Carson. So in my mind, you have to connect with that person who answered the door so that they feel comfortable recommending you come back when the other person's home. So I would typically walk around the house so that, I did this when I did expired listings and for sale owners. I get in the house, doesn't matter who's there, and get them to like and trust me so that I can come back later when the other person's there and they feel comfortable recommending, yeah, let's have Bella back. She was here this morning at 10 o'clock, let's have her back tonight at 7. Because she sort of got comfortable with me. Because, you know, some people, like in our business, we're meeting strangers all the time. But most people live in their house, drive to their work, come back, call their friend, and that's it. They don't have any strangers in their life, and they're not used to eyeball contact. So they've got to get used to you. And so in my mind, one of the easiest ways is just do a little walk around. And you're not really walking around the house to see the house. You're walking around the house to connect with that person so they feel comfortable recommending to their husband for you to come back at 7 o'clock that night. That's the purpose of the walk around. It's not to see the house. Right? You don't need to see the house. You just need to connect with the person.
And when you work with a buyer, other than working with a realtor, what kind of contract is that attached?
When you work with a buyer?
Yeah.
So I can do that in another week, but basically I'll just tell you in 1 minute here. So again, remember, this is my direct style, so it won't work for some of you who are indirect, but this is my personality. This is how I've done it. I've done this 1,000 times, so I just have to go back to it. So Bill says to me at bowling, yeah, I'm thinking about buying a house. So I say to him, okay, Bill, let's meet at a coffee shop, or I can come by your house. You have to figure out what you're going to do. And I need to figure out what you want to buy. And they go, oh, no, I'll just tell you right now. Now, he could tell me right now. He could email me. He could tell me on the phone for the next 10 minutes what he wants to buy. But I'm not interested in that. And why do I not want him to tell me in the bowling alley or on the phone or by email what he wants to buy? Because he can't sign a contract at the bowling alley or over the phone, right? I want to meet with him so he can sign a contract.
Yeah, what kind of contract?
I'm coming to that, but you have to think of the mentality. So in his mind, he's meeting with me to tell me what he wants to buy, but I'm meeting with him to sign the contract. So you have to remember that. He's meeting for one reason, I'm meeting for a different reason, okay? So I'm talking to him and I say to him, I write down everything. I've got a little sheet that asks all the questions. It's in Dropbox, working with buyers. All the questions asking about what to buy. And I say to him, okay, the costs now, it doesn't cost you any money to buy a house because the seller's agent pays us the money. How it works is that half the money goes to the seller's real estate company, half the money goes to the buyer's real estate company. So it doesn't cost you money to buy a property because we as real estate agents get paid by the seller's real estate company. So what that means is that I could show you like 20 houses, but if you walk into an open house and buy without me, I wouldn't get any money. And most buyers, I say that to, are shocked to find that out. Because somehow they think that if I've shown them 20 houses, I'm going to make some money. That's why I say that phrase. I could show you 20 houses, but if you walk into an open house and buy without me, like happened to that lady who called me yesterday from our office, I make no money. And that's why I promise I ask every buyer I work with to promise to work only with me and not with any other agent. Would you feel comfortable making a promise to buy only with me and not with anybody else?
Yes.
Yeah. And so Bella nodded. Harry said yes. So then I say to Bella, Bella, what about you? Do you feel comfortable making that promise? You see, because the nod does not work for me. I've learned from doing that 1,000 times, the nod does not work. He said yes, she nodded. So now I've got a yes from both of them. I says, that's great. You know, I feel very comfortable working with you as well. So let's begin the process. I think we should go out tomorrow and look at places. What my office needs is do some paperwork, and then we can start the process. So do you have a driver's license or any type of government ID? I can start filling out the paperwork. And then you fill out 3 things. Because see, like when I sat down, my son was buying a car a little while ago, and I'm with him, and we walk into the dealership and we agree the price. When we sat down at the table, you know what the salesman said, the first question he said to me? What do you think the salesman said to me, the first question? Do you have some photo ID? I need some photo ID. So people are used to, when I just renewed my mortgage at what bank was I at? I was at TD Bank. I sat down for the TD guy. He said to me, photo ID, first question. So people are used to photo ID. So when I bought a car and renewed my mortgage, first question was photo ID. So my realtor, photo ID, they're used to that. So photo ID. You do your Korea FinTrack, then you do working with a realtor, and you do buyer agency contract.
Buyer agency.
It's called exclusive buyer agency contract. And the reason why you do that, you go from simple to hard. Buyer agency contract is the hardest one. FinTrack is the easiest one. And the working with a realtor stops Bella from stealing your customer, right? Because once you've got a working realtor signed, Bella's not supposed to steal it. The exclusive buyer agency contract is something used in court so that if the buyer buys without you, you can sue them. So I found that the verbal promise is much more powerful than the written document. Because again, when I renewed that mortgage, the documents were that thick. I had read none of them. I still haven't. That was 6 months ago. Not thick. I haven't read anything, right? I don't know what they say. But I promised many things to the bank, but I don't know what it says. But if I promise Harry that I'm going to buy with him and not with another agent, that's a totally different thing. The only thing I left the bank with is the words he told me. 299. That's my mortgage rate. Right? That's the only thing I know. So same thing, when Harry leaves the meeting with me, he's promised to buy with me, not with another agent. He signed these documents. Doesn't know what they say, but he's made that promise, and that's powerful. Okay, any more questions before we're done?
So going back to the initial contact with that person who
Yes.
wants to buy, so how soon do you make an appointment to sit down with him? The following day?
Immediately. Like, if I'm at the open house, and the person comes to the open house and says, I want to buy, I meet, and I says, my open house is over at 4, let's meet at that Starbucks at 4:15. Right? Because when the buyer leaves your open house, what are they doing? They're coming to my open house. And I'm going to make an appointment with them for 4:15. So you're going to see them tomorrow. I'm seeing them at 4:15. They're going to cancel the appointment with you because they've already signed with me at 4:15, right? Think about that, right? Because people, like, next open house, next open house, next open houses, I'm telling them, let's meet at 4:15, and you want to meet tomorrow. They're going to meet with me, and they're going to sign with me.
I knocked the door a few days ago.
Yeah.
And the gentleman was very interesting and asked me a lot of questions. And he said, okay, I'll think about it. I think it's time to sell my house. I need to talk to my wife and I will call back. But I never get this.
It's a
Yeah.
polite way to.
So, you know, there's no answer to that question, but I feel that I only have meetings with both people, right? Because you can talk all you want to the wife or the husband, but both people are involved in the decision. So I've learned, again, doing it 1,000 times, that let's pretend Bella comes to my open house, and I say to her, okay, let's meet at 4:15. And when I'm meeting with her, I find out her husband's not there. And oh, he's too busy to come. So the husband's too busy to come to a meeting with the agent to buy a house. What does that mean? They're not going to buy. They're not going to buy. I promise you that. Right? If one of the two people is not going to come to the meeting, they're not going to buy. So when you say to them, okay, I've done a quick tour of the house. I need to come back when both of you are here. Oh, my wife doesn't want to meet you. She's just going to leave everything up to my hands. That almost always means that person does not want to sell, and you're wasting your time. Right? So you can decide if you want to pursue it, but I personally don't pursue when both people do not want to meet with me.
But the wife is not home.
Yeah, I come back when she's home. Like, and you know what I've done to people? They say, oh, she works this hours. I says, okay, no problem. I can come here at 7:30 in the morning, right? I'll come here at 10 o'clock at night, right? Because if they work conflicting 6, we're not home till 10 o'clock at night. No problem. I can come tomorrow 10 o'clock at night. No problem. Right. That's the answer. Because nobody works 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Like, they're never both home together. So if they honestly want to sell, then you just come at a time, whether it's 7 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock at night. I've honestly been at people's houses at 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock.
You should push it for the next meeting.
Yeah. Well, no, I believe you need to meet with all the decision makers.
Right.
So if there's husband and wife and a brother, you need all three. And that's what you got to do. You got to meet with the decision makers because they've got to all like and trust you. Otherwise, they're going to work with Carson. Because maybe that reason the husband doesn't want to meet with you is because he thinks Carson's the greatest agent in the world, and it doesn't matter what you say, he wants to list with Carson. Okay, we're done.
Thank you.
Social
Okay.
media, I
So
actually
I
realized
created
something
Instagram
changed.
for
Good.
The video looks like it's going on it.
and I want to bring my
And then I googled it, apparently, I don't know if it's just this camera or camera DSLRs in general.
Yeah.
They have a limit of 4 gigabytes of recording. Like, doesn't matter how big the card is, it's just the way the card is formatted. 4 gig is
The only rule is
so
Remax
that's, they
City,
say 4 gig is anywhere between
correct?
12
And you need
to
Michael's
15.
permission.
Oh.
Yeah,
so
which I already got it, but
Very
I
good.
want, yeah,
Oh,
other disclaimer that I
No,
need.
just Remax City is the only rule.
Yeah.
Okay.
And,
Awesome.
and agent's permission.
Yeah.
It's good with
Okay.
just stuff because I've never done a video. I've never done a video that's longer than
Oh,
yeah
Yeah.
15 minutes. Right?
Okay.
So